Hi everyone, and welcome to week number 2, day number 1 of my ChessGoals study plan. For week number 2, I'm focusing more on faster chess and openings. So I'll be playing more blitz and a little bit of bullet this week, doing some quick game reviews. And this day number 1, my study plan had play 45 minutes of blitz games and analyze those games at level 2. Level 2 means mainly just going through the main takeaways of the game, retrying mistakes, or chess.com key moments. So the first 5 games, I won 3 of them and drew 2. They're going pretty well. Had a couple Caro-Kanns in there. And one thing I've been mentioning to the ChessGoals members in our Discord is that ever since making the Caro-Kann course, I've been facing 1e4 way more often than any other first moves. So I'm getting Caro-Kanns left and right. And in the 6th and final game, it was a Caro-Kann in the Fantasy Variation, and my opponent followed straight through with the main moves, so this was perfect. I got to practice my theory. So instead of going through sort of the traditional blitz game analysis and doing the takeaways with you guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Caro-Kann Fantasy Variation. And I'll put some links in the description below about our Caro-Kann course and a couple other ChessGoals links if you're interested. Alright, so Fantasy Variation. E4, C6, D4, D5. This is just Caro-Kann right here. F3. This is where it's called the Fantasy Variation. The reason it's called that is because white is hoping that we take on E4, they take back with the F pawn, and then white builds this really big center with pawns on E4 and D4, and they control all of these central squares, and if our D5 pawn gets traded off, we don't have any pawns on the 5th rank. So white is really controlling the center. So the move that we're recommending in the Caro-Kann course is queen to b6. It's a bit of a rare move, 6th most popular at the club level, but because it's a bit offbeat, it's less likely that our opponents will know the theory, and also it's a move that can be a bit tricky for white, so we're going to try to pose white with some tough questions in this position. So after this, the main move is knight to c3. Now we take on e4. And the reason we're okay with taking on e4 is because after f takes back, we can start to target these weak dark squares in the white camp. And the way we do that is striking at the center with e5. It looks like a pawn sacrifice, but there's a really good reason behind this, because if white takes, we're able to quickly bring the bishop out to c5 and go after these dark squares. So the main move is knight f3. And now we take e takes d4. If we don't take there, white's actually threatening to take with the knight on e5, so we pretty much have to take on d4. Main move, queen takes d4. And here we're recommending a queen trade. So usually in the Caro-Kann course, we don't recommend trading queens if the position is too drawish. We want to avoid drawish lines. We want to give you guys good chances to play for the win. But in this line, we do recommend the queen trade. And it's for a very simple reason. This isolated pawn on e5 can actually become a big weakness for white. So it's just one extra thing that we can play against, and we don't have any weaknesses in our camp. So we're down a couple moves in development, but the fact that that pawn is potentially weak gives us something to play for. So here we recommend bishop to c5, developing the bishop with tempi. The main move is knight to b3. Kicks our bishop, but it's a slight inaccuracy. And the reason for that is the knight on b3 doesn't have any good future prospects. It doesn't sit very well out on b3. So here we recommend retreating the bishop back to d6. And this bishop could either come back to c7 later, or it could come to e5. And from this central square e5, the bishop nicely points both directions. Main move is bishop to e3. And here we recommend knight f6, and you can see we're starting to complete our development, and we have a pretty comfortable position. It's probably about equal, but I think you'll have good chances to play for a win with that isolated e-pawn. Okay, so now let's go to game number 6 that I played today, and this was against one of the stronger opponents I've faced. They rated 24-57. So here we have Caro-Kann Fantasy Variation. Just wrote a course on this. Recorded the videos with Jesse. Really should have a firm handle on it. And I was excited to see it because I don't think I've faced a Fantasy Variation since creating this course. And I really wanted to see if I could take advantage of these dark squares in the white camp. So I play queen b6. And my opponent was playing pretty quickly. If you see the clock up here, 2:52, they seem to know this theory. D takes E, F takes E, hit them with E5. Nice way to go after the dark squares, right? We see this D pawn move. My queen points to F2. Everything's going according to plan. Knight F3. Here I had to think for just a few seconds. I was trying to make sure my theory was correct with E takes D4, but I felt pretty confident in that. E takes D4. And my opponent took back with the queen. If you look at the clocks, 2:51 to 2:44, we're still both playing pretty quickly. Here I play bishop c5, and I was getting really excited. So I just won 3 games out of my last 5, drew the other 2. Haven't lost yet in this session, and I was feeling very confident. This white queen has to move somewhere. I'm going bishop f2 check. I'm already ruining the castling. Going to quickly develop my other pieces, put a rook on the d file. I'm ready to go. Then my opponent plays queen takes g7. Okay, aggressive spot for the queen. And then I started to think about this position. Queen takes g7.